Hey guys, it's Heather the Crochet Witch. How are you guys doing today? I have been tagged. I've been tagged several times by the wonderful Fiber Spider. Hello, Craig. Thank you for tagging me. He combined two topics and two topics, so I'm also going to do two videos. So you're going to see this video and some tags, and then a different video with different questions and some tags. But we're going to start with, I'm going to go in reverse and do his, because Fiber Spider started a tag, and he wants the top 10, your top 10 book list, favorite books, and your top 10 favorite movies. So I have a list of both, and we're going to talk about them if you want to. If that's not your thing, the next tag has got crochet questions in it, so I will see you in the next one. But for now, I'm going to play along. So, and let's see if you guys want to answer down below. I would love to hear your, why did I almost say prescriptions? Your recommendations and your favorites, and see, like, do we match up? Or are our tastes similar? Are we absolutely opposite? You know, let's find out. So, without further ado, let's see. So I have a list. I busted out my notebook, so you know it's serious, right? And it's super hot in here, so that's why I look crazy, I'm sure, with my hair up and all. I'm trying to get this done before our town is doing fireworks tonight, because it's, by the way, Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. So our town is doing fireworks tonight, a very big fireworks display that we can hear from here, and we would be able to see it because we're close enough, but the trees, so it's not quite, but we can definitely hear everything. And usually those start at dark. They're however long they are, an hour or so, give or take, whatever. And then directly down the road from us, both ways, neighbors decide that they're going to rival the fireworks show. Sometimes it starts tonight, and sometimes they wait until the 4th. And they started last night, so who knows? Maybe I'll get a fireworks show tonight, maybe I won't. Thankfully, it doesn't bother Maverick. Anyway, back to the tag. You know, I had to be long-winded in there somewhere. My top 10 books. Okay. So, they're in no particular order except for the first one. The first one is my absolute favorite book ever. It's called Where the Evil Dwells, and it's by Clifford D. Seemick, and it's a little bit obscure. I don't think a lot of people have, well, I think a lot of people heard of it when it came out, and I think it was out in either the 70s or the 80s. I actually never looked up when it came out, but I know that it was either the late 80s, I want to say early 90s, but I'm pretty sure actually it was the late 80s. So don't quote me exactly when. I think this was the 80s that I read it. Because I read pretty advanced stuff as a kid. So this is definitely in the realm of possibility of things that I was reading. But it is, I want to describe it as a dark fantasy, but I don't mean gothic and romantic and things like that. I mean that it is a fantasy book, as in there are, you know, dragons and monsters and all those fun things. And there's a dark, I don't want to say depressing because that makes the book sound bad, but there's a dark, angsty feel to the book. Like, it's not necessarily a book where you feel like the heroes are going to persevere, and I'm not going to tell you the ending, but you don't get that feeling from the beginning to the end, right? It's really hard to explain, but I absolutely love it. And I know maybe some of it is nostalgia because I remember reading a lot of books, and this one is definitely at the top of the list. If I were to recommend any books that I assume maybe you hadn't heard of, this would top that list. If you like fantasy, I would say give it a try. There are some, adult themes for a child, because I was definitely a child when I read it, but nothing crazy. Like, I write spicier fanfic than than what's going on here. It was just like more of the shock value of I was a kid, right? So it's really good if you like fantasy and dark things. I suggest reading it. Has anybody out there read it? Please tell me if you have. My feelings won't be hurt if you didn't love it, but I'm just curious who else has heard of it aside from hearing about it from me, because I think I've talked about it in the past also. But yeah, let me know. The second spot, in true Heather fashion, I didn't want one set of books to take up 4 slots. So I grouped them all. So this is 3 books. Or 4 books, I'm sorry. But it is by Tolkien, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and The Hobbit. The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings actually is the way that you would read them, I guess. But you read them however you want, you know. But chronologically, The Hobbit and then Lord of the Rings. Okay, that's somebody's music. I don't know how well my mic picks things up, if you can hear like a booming or anything. I thought that was thunder or fireworks already starting. Somebody's music playing really loud, apparently. Anyway, I know most of you who are familiar with fantasy probably are much more familiar with Tolkien and The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit than my first pick, the Clifford D. Simic book. So I won't go into like a great detail about it. Also, I know I've gone into detail before about it, but yeah, if you haven't read it, Tolkien is I was going to say his own universe, but he literally did create his own universe. He created his own languages. He created, obviously, his own lore and mythos behind everything that's happening now. The Silmarillion, which is a Tolkien book I didn't put on the list, but I mean, that's basically like the Old Testament of Tolkien lore, right? So, sorry, I mentioned it's hot in here before, so I'm going to be drinking. I did switch to some Gatorade this time. See, I drink other things besides Diet Pepsi and water, just not very often. I rarely stray, but I thought today was a Gatorade day. That rhymed. Anyway, number 3, I also grouped everything together. I grouped it as just the world of Dragonlance. It's another fantasy realm. It's probably in between the Tolkien verse and the Clifford D. Simic book. It's probably, I think some people have heard of it. It is, originally, it was based off of, I believe they wrote the campaign for Dungeons and Dragons, but it took off into its own, like, stories and backstories and future stories and, you know, how they met and where they end up and just everything. And, you know, it started out kind of like in the middle, and the backstories were written and everything to come, like people wanted more and more. So like future, I think it's called The Next Generation, but future, you know, generations, the stories continue, and I get goosebumps thinking of it. Like I love this whole, it's immersive. It's you could follow a character and then trace their like lineage, I swear, through all the different books and everything. Their side characters have their own books. One of my absolute favorite that I would probably say is really a side character. And in my heart, he's a main character, but his name is Dalamar the Dark, because he's a dark elf. He's got his own origin story book. It started with the 3 original, there are other chronicles now, but the 3 original chronicles, which were the dragons of, oh no, Spring Dawning was the 3rd one, Winter Nights was the 2nd one, and then the very first one was, I don't know why I can't think of it. I should have written that down. It's the first 3 Chronicle books. And they follow the main like event kind of is, well, there's two main events, but the current day main event has been the War of the Lance, and everything the chronicles are leading up to and kind of following you through that, with this group of heroes, right? And it is your quintessential, you could believe reading it that these guys were a D&D group going off, and if you've ever played D&D, saw it, even watched Stranger Things, people are in a group and then suddenly somebody's going over here and then suddenly somebody's going over here and it follows them. I'm not doing this justice when I explain it, but it is absolutely like mesmerizing to me. I started these books when I would say I probably started reading these before the Clifford D. Simic book. Maybe I found them right after. I'm not sure which came first, I guess. But yeah, I couldn't get enough. And from time to time, I still reread them. You'll find through my list, there's a lot of stuff that I read when I was younger that I reread and reread. Because, I'm stuck on a loop in the past, basically. But they're good enough to go back to, right? The other set of 3 books that I broke this into, since I just decided, like, Heather, you have to break this down and pick some favorites. So there's the 3 original chronicles, and then there's the 3 Legends series. And what the Legends series does is it does still involve the characters from the original chronicles, but most of them are on a lesser scale, and it follows one of my favorite characters, which is Raistlin Majir. It follows him through his growth and future destinies. I won't give out anymore because that's what the books are about. But it's all really just vivid fantasy. If you are a fantasy person, if you like Tolkien, I think you will really enjoy these. If you like D&D and you like to read, I think you will really enjoy these. If you like D&D, you've probably already heard of them. But I highly suggest it, even if you don't like D&D. If you just like dragons and magic and all that fun stuff, you will like this. So that is my number 3. Number 4 is my Stephen King category. Now, I put The Stand because The Stand happens to be my absolute favorite of his. And there is, it's true for most of his things. For most of his stories, most of his books, there is obviously a lot more. I mean, it's true for most books to movies, right? There's a lot more in depth in the books than there is in the movie, because with a lot of books that are detailed, how can you fit that much into movies? And even though they made The Stand into, I mean, originally it was a miniseries. Like you could call it a movie now because you can get it like when you stream it or when you buy the DVD or whatever. It's all one, I guess. But my first, like, I saw it on TV as the miniseries, and I also I got the VHS, I think, and was it 2 or was it 4 VHS? I think it was 2. But it was in parts, But yeah, so what I'm about to say is obviously like duh, but like when you read the book, there's just a lot more to it. And it's kind of funny because like the book itself, like if you dig it down to its bones, is good versus evil. Like you could look at it as God versus Satan. You could look at it as just humanity's, goodness and evilness and, the wickedry and how they go together and everything. But that story, like that basic primal story, holds true throughout. It's a current day theme also, right? So you really could compare it to modern day. Was it written in the 80s or 90s? I know I watched the show in the 90s. But anyway, I mean, as the Stephen King category, like It is definitely one of my favorites. I think It is like, there's like The Stand and It, and there's a very small difference between the two. I really, really liked the book. I liked the book Pet Sematary way more than the movie. Like, the movie's fine. The new adaptation of it is fine. But the book itself was actually scarier. I really liked the book Cujo. I don't think I could watch the movie now. Like, maybe if I had watched the movie back when I read the book, I could have. But I've noticed since I've gotten older and maybe since, because like when I was a kid, we only had one pair of dogs that my grandparents didn't let me get attached to very long. I think they went back to their owners, their original owners. And my grandma, I found out years later that my grandma lied to me and told me that they ran away because I didn't think they wanted them anymore. Which, I mean, 5, 6-year-old Heather, I couldn't do much about that, right? So, like, I would never, but I'm also not going to judge my grandparents because I think it was a case of my grandpa couldn't say no to me and I wanted both dogs and my grandma was like, anyway, that's way off topic. But I've noticed as I've gotten older, and like I said, maybe as I've owned more dogs and gotten attached to just animals in general, I don't think I could watch Cujo and the dog himself go through what he goes through. So that's one I think I'll keep in book form. But I really liked it. I really liked Christine. Needful Things was such a good book. Man, Stephen he's got a lot of really good books. So yeah, a whole Stephen King category, but my favorite beyond doubt is The Stand. Beyond doubt plus It. Now getting further back into childhood, and this isn't like, you think The Stand is probably this thick, right? It is probably this thick. Similar, just thick books. The next book I'm going to talk to you about is probably only this thick. And I would call it, I don't know, maybe like a junior reader's type of book, but it's still like for just a quick read. I own a copy of it still. It's next to, like, it's on my nightstand shelf upstairs, and I would pick it up and read it with no issue. But it's called The House on Hackman's Hill, and it's by Joan Lowry Nixon. Now, if you are familiar with this book, you may understand a little bit more about what shaped me growing up. The House on Hackman's Hill is for young kids, not like 6-year-olds, but I mean, it's for, 10-year-olds maybe. I don't remember how old I was when I read it. But it's these kids, I think they're cousins, if I remember right. They weren't brother and sister. These kids snuck up to the old Hackman house on the hill, as the name implies, and a blizzard, or I think it was, or storm, a blizzard hit, and they decided that couldn't risk leaving, so they were basically trapped in this house. And the story behind the house is that it was at one point this really like eclectic old guy lived in the house, and he had like obsessions with like Egyptian things and curses and I think like magic, like tomes of different things. And so you get like this mystery behind when he passed away, like legend around town had said that he still had some of his artifacts stayed in the house, so the kids were on the lookout for like the mummy that he was supposedly had and the jewels that came from the mummy, because I know there was a big point about them finding the mummy's eyes that were like green jewels in the mummy. And it was my first introduction to Anubis. And there's a lot of terror implied in the book because like at one point they get like locked upstairs in this house. Sorry, I have a phone call coming in, but I thought maybe it stopped the recording. Anyway, they get locked upstairs in this house, and they're running because I don't remember if you actually ever see him, but it's implied that Anubis is still like hanging out at the house, basically, like to stop intruders, which they obviously are. But it's a fun read, but there is some like mystery, intrigue, adventure to it, But yeah, Anyway, I would suggest if you want some light reading, just like a fun little story, I'm highly into that. So, the next book that I have is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. There is a movie also made of that, but I read the book long before the movie came out. Like, I remember being so excited that the movie was coming out. But it is, about a fallen star, and the fallen star happens to be a living individual, and the guy that finds her, and there's like this whole adventure. I would say most of the book is the adventure of getting the star to where she needs to be, but then there's like a twist of what they find there that I won't go into detail about because I'll spoil it, but I'm assuming most people have either read it or seen the movie by now. But anyway, it's super good. Neil Gaiman is, he's got like quirkiness in his writing, and I wanted to not mention graphic novels, but honestly, I would be amiss if I did not mention Neil Gaiman also is the author behind the graphic novels, comics, The Sandman. And honestly, even more than Stardust, like that is my absolute favorite work of his. But yeah, I was, you know, not that graphic novels aren't books. I just, normally they're not my thing, so I wasn't trying to add them in. But The Sandman is by far my favorite writing of Neil Gaiman's. I believe there is a novel, but I have not read it. I've only recently found out about it. So I'm going to be hunting that down. Yes. Number 7 is another trilogy and books from, again, my youth. So something that you could like pick up and read, you know, like that day or what, like if you're pretty quick read, looking for that kind of thing. The series is by an author, Carolyn B. Cooney, and it's called, like the first book is called The Fog, the second book is called The Snow, and the third book is called The Fire. And it's this like, if you're reading it as a kid, which I did, oh my God, how has nobody found this out? Like, what's going on? Like, how is this even happening? And I think it is meant to be more like the things that are going on. The lead character is a girl, like a school age girl, and she goes to live. I cannot for the life of me remember why she goes to live in this place. Like, is she an orphan? I don't remember, but I think she was an orphan, but she was sent to live there, and there were other kids there also. But they went to like a regular school and things like that up in this place in New England. I think it was in Maine, but it was definitely in New England. And things just start getting like weirder and creepier. And she begins to suspect that the people that she's living with, the adults, are basically out to get her, out to get the kids. This crazy things start happening, and yeah, it's just, you know, like I said, it's another like pretty quick read type of thing, but it is definitely one of the series that like shaped younger Heather. So I think they're really good. You know, if you have like a young reader, or if you just want to pick something up that's pretty light, I would go with that. So definitely suggested. Number 8 is different from all the other books. Like, you've noticed a lot of like fantasy, horror, that kind of thing. Number 8 is a biography. It is Howard Stern, Private Parts, which is his first book. Do I have 2 more books of his, or just one other? I don't remember if he has 2 books or 3. I mean, he may have more than that, but at least from what I knew, because I remember I definitely bought them because I liked Private Parts so much. Because it's especially true for when I got it, but Howard Stern has always been known as this shock jock, egotistical, you know, and there's a lot of I don't know what the word, like there's a lot of vulnerability behind it, because he's so clear and truthful and transparent about like his marriage, and his work and everything. It's a really good read. It has been a while since I read it. It is literally sitting on the shelf outside of the store. So I actually have been thinking about picking it back up and rereading it, but I do remember absolutely loving it, and I wanted to have a biography that I have read cover to cover before. So I would suggest if you're into that, I mean, like, Howard Stern kind of fits in with my aesthetic of like weird and rock and roll, and you know, if you're into the same kind of stuff, I would suggest, you know, maybe pick it up. Maybe. I'm not here to sell it to you or anything, but it's just on my top, you know, that's number 8 of my top 10. And then number 9 is another kind of like quirky, I guess you could still call it fantasy, sci-fi fantasy, maybe, I don't know. But it's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, by Douglas Adams. And like, really, I liked all of his books, but The Hitchhiker's Guide is the first of the series, and it's your introduction to this crazy cast and like just space oddity. It's where you learn to always carry a towel. And yeah. So it's one of those, like, I hate this phrase, but it is one of those if you know, you know kind of deals. Like, it's just, you could sit here and talk about the weirdness of it forever. My favorite character by far in it is this absolutely moody, attitudey, and broody kind of robot named Marvin. I love him. In the movie, he was voiced by Alan Rickman. So you can already like get a feel of this Alan Rickman with this depressive voice going on, because he is also a depressed, if I didn't mention that, robot. And I absolutely love him. And then number 10 is another grouping that I felt I had to add to this, because it circles back to my fantasy, my dark fantasy. Again, not meant as romance per se. I mean, it is dark, and it is a fantasy novel, set of novels. But it is the Song of Fire and Ice, the Game of Thrones books, which had to go at number 10 because it's not complete. George R.R. Martin needs to kick it in gear, right? There's one more book that we're waiting on, but I'm a fan of I was a fan of the TV show. I still am. It's just not going anymore. And I loved all of that. But yeah, again, it's another, you know, there's so much to the novels that even with a long running TV series, they just didn't fit everything in it. And then of course things translate differently onto the screen. So things are changed, etc., etc. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. So there we go. Those are my 10. I'm going to quickly, hopefully quicker than half an hour, jump into the movies. No promises. But, and then we'll tag some folks. But, yeah, so those are my books. So you've already gotten a taste of my, like, weird, eclectic, right? So for movies, we also have another top 10. Coming in at number 1, if you haven't guessed this, I'm not sure you've been around my channel very long, but The Lost Boys. Nothing says 80s rock, horror, with some campy added in. Campy? It's your quintessential 80s stereotypical wonderfulness. I love it. You know, it does have its vampire story and everything, but it's also very, like, the soundtrack alone is just amazing. You could like watch that movie with your eyes closed and just fall asleep to it, because there's some talking and then there's the soundtrack. It's amazing. I love it. I love it. It goes without saying. Number 2 is another, I'm pretty sure this is an 80s movie. Because it's another thing, like, I remember it from my childhood, so, like, was it 80s, was it 90s? Who knows? But, and I don't want somebody to be like, no, that was made in 1991. Sorry, I thought it was 89, or, you know, whatever. But The Princess Bride. It is fantasy, it is romance, it is Cary Elwes at his finest. I absolutely love it. If you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say that I personally love the ROUSs. Yeah, it's just, it is everything. And you'll see from my list that, like, especially starting at an early age, I was very fantasy related, right? So The Princess Bride definitely it almost made my book list, because there is a book also, and I just didn't want to be, repeating myself too much, but because I'm already going to be repeating myself with number 3, number 3 is The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogies. I had to put those all together. They're like, I like to marathon them as well as I can. They definitely take the span of more than one day, because I have the extended versions of everything. But I love them when I'm sick. They're one of my top comfort movies. When I'm sad, they're my top comfort movie. They're just, as I've already explained in the book section of this, but Tolkien just makes his own whole entire, universe that you can just cozy up into. I love them so much. Number 4 is another childhood favorite, and I remember them playing this every year, and every year I watched it, but is The Dark Crystal. You already know, if you've been around the channel, that I love Jim Henson, like the Muppets, like Sesame Street, the Muppets, The Dark Crystal, The Labyrinth. The Labyrinth should be here, like Dark Crystal / Labyrinth, really. They could go hand in hand, but I love them. I love them so much. It's another fantasy, obviously, where you follow these two, this one Gelfling, he picks up another Gelfling, and they go on this big adventure. I don't want to get too into it, because I feel like most people have probably already seen it, since it's a pretty old movie. It's definitely an 80s movie. But yeah, I love The Dark Crystal. They released another Dark Crystal on Netflix, so I watched the old one, and then I think the new one was a series, right? It was definitely broken up, into at least a couple parts, right? I mean, maybe not. Maybe I watched them all together, so maybe not. Anyway, there is a second Dark Crystal, and that one is really good too. I remember absolutely geeking out while I was watching it. Number 5, we've grouped together an entire universe, but it is the Conjuring universe, because I feel like they're like also a comfort movie to me. I know they're horror, so I don't know if that's like weird to some of you, but I'm actually, when I get done with these videos, I'm probably going to go start it, because I have been really jonesing the last couple days to like come home from work and watch a Conjuring movie. I fell in love with the whole universe just from the start, so from 1, and they do cover famous cases or famous like mythos, as we'll get into, but everything was set, 60s, 70s style. Like, I really love movies where if they're going to be set back then, that they actually find, pieces from then, and everything is set. You don't they didn't sneak in modern day stuff, or, it all goes into good movie, I don't want to say directing, maybe directing, but movie setting. They definitely like nailed the atmosphere, so you're already feeling like these comfy vibes, which makes the horror even more horrific. And it's like that in all of the movies. Now, my favorite, if I had to pick a favorite in the whole universe, I'm gonna say it's The Curse of La Llorona, even though I guess now, like I read somewhere that they're trying to say that that's not part of the Conjuring universe, but it has literally got the priest, and it has like a nod to Annabelle in the movie. And they originally definitely had it. I think the article that I said, which, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, it was just an article that I found on my phone news thing, but it said that because it didn't do as well as expected, like box office wise, sales wise, that they basically said, no, it's not part of the universe. But it definitely is. It definitely is. I don't care. We're in Heather world right now, and I am saying yes, it is. Deny it all you want, but yes, it is. And it is my favorite. Like, I love them all, but it is my favorite. Number 6, also grouped together is the entire Star Wars saga. I don't see, like, how do you pick? How do you pick a favorite? Do you pick a favorite because the first one I saw when I was a child was A New Hope? Do you pick a favorite because Liam Neeson was in Phantom Menace and that he's my favorite? Well, Harrison Ford is in pretty much all of them. He's my favorite too. But I had big heart palpitations seeing Liam Neeson as, you know, a Jedi. Do you pick because Han Solo is probably my favorite actual character? Do you pick Solo? Like, how do you, if you are a Star Wars fan and you have a favorite, what is it? Can you tell me down below? Because what is it? I cannot choose. I cannot. People are hating on the Ewoks. I love the Ewoks. I love people hate on Jar Jar. I love Jar Jar. I don't know if it's, for me, if it is part of the Star Wars universe, I am in love with it. I love The Mandalorian, which I know is not a movie, it's a series, so I'm not particularly mentioning that, just except for the fact that I love it. I love all of it. I don't see how you pick a favorite. Like, I can't. Number 7, which I've seen so many times. I've probably seen this movie more times than all the rest of the movies combined, including Lord of the Rings. Number 7 is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. If you have even remotely got an idea of what this movie is, you may understand my love for it. It's everything kooky and weird and with a Transylvanian spooky twist to it. It's not scary, but it does have the undertones. It has the implications, I guess. They started out like they really want it to be that because, you know, it's Brad and Janet and you introduce to them and then they get lost in, well, not lost in, their car breaks down in the woods. And then, you know, they happen upon this creepy castle in the middle. It's a dark and stormy night and, you know, and then all hell breaks loose. Like, it's just the most wonderful, and it's a musical, and it's another, like, the soundtrack just lives rent-free in my head all the time. I cannot hear the word Janet without thinking, damn it, Janet. I can't hear the word damn it without adding Janet to it. Like, it's just, I love it. And Richard O'Brien is the most wonderful person. Like, well, I don't want to say person. I don't know him personally. I don't know him personally. But his brain is just like, he's an actor. He's a writer. He's a director. I love Richard O'Brien. I think he's amazing. He plays Riff Raff, the kooky butler, in the show. Yeah, I love it. So number 8 is a little bit of a change of direction from, I think, pretty much everything I've had so far. Pretty much everything on my list. This is like the standout, I guess, of it. But it is Rock of Ages. And I know I have talked about this, at least in the Movie Marquee Challenge. It's a comedy. It's a rock comedy musical. I love it so much. From like Russell Brand and which Baldwin? Was it Alec? I think Alec was in it, right? From those two being like the couple that is owning the whiskey, right? Was it the whiskey? I have seen this movie a ton of times, but anyway, they own, you know, this nightclub, and it's known for being famous, you know, giving musicians their big push, and it's being there's an uprising against rock and roll by this church group who's led by Catherine Zeta-Jones. I just feel like I'm getting people's names wrong. But she's like this politician's wife, church lady with her own like little rock and roll fantasy, as you find out. But it's got Tom Cruise, and he is like this 80s rocker, like glam rocker character, and Tom Cruise actually sings in it, and he's amazing. Like I love Tom Cruise anyway, but this movie is so great, and it is yet another soundtrack that just lives, you know, rent-free. There's a lot of rent-free soundtracks going on up here, but number 9 is It's a duo. Instead of grouping a whole bunch, it's two. But it's Warlock and Warlock 2 the Armageddon, or Warlock the Armageddon, which is Warlock 2. These movies were my introduction to Julian Sands. I understand they're supposed to be horror, but I rooted for the bad guy. So it wasn't really scary to me, right? Julian Sands is this warlock who originally, like in the first one, he came from back in medieval days. Giles Redfern is the warlock, the witch hunter, the witch chaser, who follows him through time. And they meet nowadays, it was in the 80s, but a nowadays woman, Cassandra with a K, who helps Redfern hunt down the warlock. And their goal, obviously, is to foil his plans of getting the Devil's Bible and putting it together. Whether they do or not, I will leave that up to you to decide and find out if you watch it. But there is a Warlock 2, and in Warlock 2, he's still trying to raise Satan, and he's trying to gather all of these gems, this set of gems that has been like scattered throughout the world. Like there's an art collector, and as part of the art piece, one of the art pieces that he owns, the jewel is in there. There is a fashion, like a catwalk, runway models, that kind of fashion designer, and she's got one as a necklace or an earring maybe. And he has to go find that particular gem. And then there's one gem that there's like a coven, I want to say, a gathering of druids, and like modern day druids, and they have been tasked with keeping that safe and knowing that one day the warlock would come for it. And so that's what the movie's about. But again, does he raise Satan? I don't know. You're gonna have to watch it and find out. But I love Julian Sands. Like I could have easily picked, A Room with a View, or Boxing Helena, or Arachnophobia. Like this is like my Julian Sands category. But my favorite movies of his were the Warlock movies. I love them so much. And then number 10, the last one on the list, is The Birds. The Hitchcock movie, The Birds. Looking at it from a more modern day standpoint, I mean, when I describe it, I'm sure somebody who hasn't seen it, that isn't interested in it, would be like, what's the big deal? A gathering of birds. But there is so much tension based around these birds, and they do some terrible things. Like bad things happen because of them. So, and then you see that, and then once you see like, okay, so maybe they kill somebody, and then all of a sudden you have to watch the main character lead a whole schoolyard full of children through these birds with like, and there's more birds and more birds and more birds gathering, and you have to watch her lead them through without these kids freaking out and causing one to, uproar and attack. And it's the suspense of everything in it, and it's wonderful. And it's one of the first few movies that I always try to watch come Halloween time, or when I do my spooky marathon. I do like 31 days of Halloween, and every day I watch a horror-based movie or TV show, and that is always amongst the first ones. I absolutely love it. So that was the end of my my 10. That was a lot. We've been talking for a while, right, guys? Thank you if you're still here. And I do have to do some tags, and I am getting greedy and tagging a whole handful of people. But I would be remiss if I did not tag Erin from Crafting Kitty, because she actually like talks about books that she reads and stuff. So she's a big avid reader. And I feel like some of our top 10 lists might at least walk hand in hand together. I also am going to tag Samantha from Amethyst Craftworks, Bella from Bella's Crochet Gifts, Kay from Kay's Crochet Haven, and last but not least, Miss Carrie Penny, the Happy Crafty homemaker. So I want to hear it, ladies. Let's have it. For me, making my movie list was easier, but I don't know. It was fun. It was just harder for me because in my adult life, I don't read as much as I wish I did. And I think that's probably why stuff that I already know that I like, I dive back into because it's like a comfort thing for me. But anyway, yeah, so that is everything. List, and tag. Check, check, check. We've completed it. So thank you again to Fiber Spider for tagging me, and check out his video and his answers. And I have to say, I'm very happy to see that we have some things in common also. I mean, I should have known that, but especially some of his music choices, or movie choices, I mean. I'm also thinking of when you see the next one, there's music involved, and Fiber Spider tagged me in that also. And we had a lot more in common. I guess music was probably our most commonality between lists, but anyway, so I feel like Craig and I could be besties. I'm just saying. Just putting that out there now. All right, you guys. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna go see if Maverick is okay with the noise. I heard him bark a little bit ago, so I'm guessing somebody was setting off some fireworks that I didn't hear in here. But and then I'll be back with another tag. So thank you for joining me. And also, Fiber Spider mentioned this in his, but if I did not tag you, and if you really want to do it, consider yourself tagged also. I had to pick some, so I just, reached out for my girls, but definitely, if you want to do it, tag me in it too, and let me hear, or list down below what your lists are, or put it in my Facebook group. I'm cool with that. All that's down below. And all right, I'm gonna actually go. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.